Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I am Gerlie Sagun, and this is my topic, genetically modified organism. So, what is genetically modified organism? A genetically modified organism contains DNA that has been altered using genetic engineering. Genetically modified animals are mainly used for research purposes, while genetically modified plants are common in today's food supply. A genetically modified organism, or GMO, is an animal, plant, or microbe whose DNA has been altered using genetic engineering techniques. For thousands of years, humans have used breeding methods to modify organisms. Corn, cattle, and even dogs have been selectively bred over generations to have certain desired traits. Within the last few decades, however, modern advances in biotechnology have allowed scientists to directly modify the DNA of microorganisms, crops, and animals. There are two conventional methods of modifying plants and animals. First is selective breeding, and second is crossbreeding. These methods can take a long time to breed, and selective breeding and crossbreeding often produce mixed results, with unwanted traits appearing alongside desired characteristics. The scientific targeted modification of DNA using biotechnology has allowed scientists to avoid this problem and improve the genetic makeup of an organism without unwanted characteristics tagging along. Some genetically modified animals, however, are produced for human consumption. Examples of genetically modified animals are first, salmon. So salmon has been genetically engineered to mature faster, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration stated that these fish are safe to eat. Next example is goat or silk spinning goats. In 2012, scientists at the University of Yunnan engineered goats to produce a protein in spider silk in their milk. Next is pigs or super muscly pigs. Earlier this year, South Korean scientists used a gene editing technology called Tumolin to tweak the genes in pigs to make them produce more muscles. Then the first genetically engineered plants to be produced for human consumption were introduced in the mid-1990s. Examples of genetically modified organism plants are: first, the corn. Corn is the most commonly grown crops in the United States, and most of it is GMO. Next is soybean. Most soy grown in the United States is GMO soy. Most GMO soy is used for animals, predominantly poultry and livestock, and making soybean oil. Genetically engineered crops produce higher yields, have a longer shelf life, and resistant to disease and pests. Benefits are a plus for both farmers and consumers. Other concerns include the possibility of the genetically engineered foreign DNA to non-GMO plants and animals.
GMOs in food and agricultural industries are used in food and agricultural industries to create plants and animals with desired traits such as resistance to disease or improved nutritional content. GMOs are controversial in some circles due to concern about their potential health and environmental impact. Also, proponents argue that they can help increase crop yields and reduce the use of pesticides. Opponents argue that they may have unintended consequences, such as increased antibiotic resistance, and that they can lead to loss of biodiversity. GMOs in food and agricultural industries include cotton, canola, pineapple, potato, alfalfa, corn, papaya, apple, soybean, summer squash, sugar beet. GMOs are also used in animal feeds such as corn and soybean. Other application of GMOs in the food and agricultural industries include products such as cheese, yogurt, and dairy products, as well as vegetable oil, sweeteners, and food additives.
Genetically modified organisms or GMO in non-food crops and some microorganisms involve the following. Flour production. GMOs in flour production are seen in modified color and extended base life of flowers. Examples are blue roses. The so-called blue roses, which are in reality lilac or purple, contain cyanidin 3,5-diglycoside together with large amount of flavonols. The introduction of the flavonoid 31.51 hydroxylase gene into pelargonidin or cyanidin, producing rose cultivars, diverts the anthocyanin biosynthetic pathway, lowered the production of delphinidin glucosides and the flower color to blue. The second one is paper production. Modified characteristics of trees for higher yield of paper production. Examples are poplar trees. Lignin is a complex polymer in trees that is removed from wood to make paper through craft process. Through inserting genes that code from ferulic acid in young poplar trees, the lignin structure is modified, making lignin easier to break down. The third one is pharmaceutical production. Modified plants to produce pharmaceutical products. Examples are periwinkle plants. Bacterial genes were added to the periwinkle plants to enhance the production of vinblastine, an alkaloid, usually added to drugs for cancer treatment like Hodgkin's lymphoma. The fifth one is enzyme and drug production. Use of modified microorganisms that can produce enzymes for food processing and medicines. One example of this is sigtase, cyclomaltodextrin, glycosyltransferase, CGTase, and enzyme used for food flavor enhancer is produced in higher quantity by Bacterium bacillus, which was genetically modified with the gene of thermophilic anaerobe, Thermoanaerobacter carrying CGTase. Another example is artemisinin. Artemisinin acid is a compound drug for anti-malarial drug extracted from sweet wordwood plants. Through genetic engineering, it can be synthetically produced by yeast and bacteria with sweet wordwood plant gene. And lastly, GMOs in the medical field. Genetic engineering is playing a significant role from diagnosis to treatment of human-dreaded diseases. It helps in the production of drugs, gene therapy, and laboratory researches. One classic example is Tumolin, the genetically engineered insulin used by type 1 diabetes patients who are insulin dependent. In the past, insulin is extracted from the pancreas of pigs and cows that have caused allergic reaction to some diabetic using it. In 1978, researchers from the City of Hope, National Medical Center and Genentech Biotechnology Company were able to produce human insulin. The gene for insulin was inserted to bacterial DNA that was able to produce almost exactly the same human insulin. This was a breakthrough in the mass production of human insulin in 1996. Modified human insulin was approved called the Humalog.
Benefits of GMO. Some benefits of genetic engineering in agriculture: an increased crop yields, reduced cost for food or drug production, reduced need for pesticides, enhanced nutrients composition in food, quality resistance to pest and disease, greater food security and medical benefits to the world's growing population. The possible benefits of genetic engineering include more nutritious food, tastier food, disease and drought resistance, plants that require fewer environment resources, or such as water and fertilizer, less use of pesticides, increased supply of food with reduced cost and longer shelf, faster growing plants and animals. Most GMO plants are used to make ingredients that are then used in other food products. For example, cornstarch can be made with GMO corn and sugar can be made with GMO sugar beets.
Potential risks of GMOs. The most notable GMO risks to humans are the potential development of allergens to GM related crops and toxicity from GM crops. The biggest threat caused by GMOs foods is that they can have harmful effects on the human body. Research studies present conflicting arguments as to whether consuming GM crops is beneficial or harmful to human health. With every alleged GMO health risk, there are counter-arguments either opposing health risk claims or suggesting GMOs provide more benefits than harm. There are some examples of potential risks of GMOs: allergens, toxicity, antibiotic resistance. An allergen is a type of antigen that sets off an abnormal vigorous immune response, triggering the immune system to fight off perceived threats that are harmless to the body. Next is toxicity. Toxicity is a study found an association between tryptophan consumption, L-tryptophan specifically, and an increased number of deaths as well as neurologic disability. The next is antibiotic resistance. Antibiotic resistance is attributed to HGT. Antibiotics are used in early stages of genetic modification from HGT to eliminate chances of bacterial mutation and antibiotic resistant. In addition, some example of potential risk of GMOs are immunosuppression, cancer, loss of nutrition. A study by the New England Journal of Medicine showed that when a gene from a Brazil nut was engineered into soybeans, people allergic to nuts had serious reaction to the engineered product.
Potential environmental risk caused by GMOs. First one is the direct environmental risk. Direct environmental risk are introduction of the GMOs in the natural environment may cause disruptions of the natural communities through competitions or interference. The possibility of unexpected behavior of the GMOs in the environment if it escapes its intended use and may pose threats or become fast may cause harmful effect to ecosystem. Processes of GMOs interfere with the natural biochemical cycles. The persistence of GMO genes after its harvest, which may cause negative impact to the consumer of GMO products. The example of this is allergic reactions, antibiotic resistance, cancer, nutrition loss, and the toxicity. Second is the indirect environmental risk. The indirect environmental risk are alteration of agricultural practices like managing negative impacts of GMOs to the environment, such as evolution of insects, pests, and weeds that became resistant to GMO crops, may have impact to biodiversity caused by the alteration in the agricultural practices, may have varied environmental impact due to GMO's interaction and release in the natural environment. The example of this is traffic, air quality, and noise impact. Then the other potential risks that raise major concern are human genome project, mutation of genetically engineered microorganisms, and the cloning.
Potential human health risk caused by GMOs. Many concerns about the disadvantages relate to human health. Scientists have not yet shown that GMO foods are harmful to health, but research is ongoing. As genetically modified foods are starting to intrude in our diet, concerns have been expressed regarding GM food safety. These concerns, as well as the limitation of the procedures followed in the evaluation of their safety, are presented. Animal toxicity studies with certain GM foods have shown that they may toxically affect several organs and systems. The review of these studies should not be conducted separately for each GM food, but according to the effect exerted on the certain organs, it may help us create a better picture of the possible health effects on human beings. The results of most studies with GM foods indicate that they may cause some common toxic effects such as hepatic, pancreatic, renal, or reproductive effects and may alter the hematological, biochemical, and immunologic parameters. However, many years of research with animals and clinical trials are required for this assessment. Several animal studies indicate serious health risks associated with GM food, including infertility, immune problems, accelerated aging, insulin regulation, and changes in major organs and the gastrointestinal system.